Hi, my name is Rebecca Gresby, and this week I'm going to be talking about Chapter 19 from our Media Ethics at Work book. It's titled Friend of the Victim, the Case of a Murdered Student. So it talks about how in 2008 in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, the body of a young woman was found half of a mile from the University of North Carolina campus. And the day after the murder, police identified the body to be a 22-year-old. I think she was a senior at UNC, and she was the student body president. Adam Rue, I think that's how you pronounce his name, he was a senior journalism major who knew Carson after he interviewed her and covered the student government organization for a story, and he got close with her during that and considered her to be a friend. And so once this story broke, he was faced with the ethical dilemma of whether or not he should cover this story because he did consider her to be a friend. And so even though he was personally connected to the story, he chose to do it anyways and cover it. But he did quickly realize that he would have to balance the emotions of losing a friend with his responsibility to remain objective, which could easily be done, especially if he's interviewing other students from student government. If he became close with them as well, the entire situation just seems like it took a huge emotional toll, or like it would take a huge emotional toll. And so then he chose to report several details from law enforcement, and he left the sources unnamed. Even though he would be responsible if they were wrong, he kind of took those to be facts. And then the story or the chapter starts to talk about how a lot of information was kind of unreliable at this point. There was a lot of misinformation spreading around, and for example, it talked about how the media first thought that she was carjacked and that's what led to her death, but then they discovered that somebody had broken into her home and taken her from her home. So then the chapter goes on to talk about how Rue had to write stories very quickly and didn't always have time to verify facts, which kind of goes back to the part where I was talking about how if he published something and did not fact check, it would ultimately fall back on him, but he chose to do it anyways. And it said that he sometimes didn't even have time to write a script before going on air because the news was just that breaking. And so the article also talks about how he attended a candlelit visual and was trying to be present during that and trying to mourn her death while also trying to report at the same time, and he was using a microphone to describe like the scene and what was going on for viewers or listeners that could not physically be there at that time. And he got a lot of backlash from on the media coverage, both from people who were listening online and people that were there. Someone tried to get him kicked out. And so it also talks about how he agreed to do a few interviews with other reporters as and he decided to be both a journalist and a source/friend of the victim. And that was also emotionally draining on him because he was trying to report and remove his emotions from that and remain objective, while he was also tapping into the emotions of being her friend. And so ultimately, I don't think that I would have personally wanted to report on this story, because I would have felt that I would have been putting my personal feelings and my personal sadness and my mourning at that time would have gotten in the way of my reporting, and I feel like it has almost done that for him, because when you're mourning the death of somebody, your first concern should not be writing a story about it, in my opinion. So I don't think that he should have been able to cover this story. So yeah, that's all I have for this week, so thank you for watching.